My name is Ashley Jenkins, a master's student in the Graduate School of Professional Psychology at the University of Denver. Today I'll be discussing role ambiguity and intra-team communication in interdependent sports teams. This can be used as athletes understand their roles within the team by means of communication. So what is role ambiguity? It is the perception of lack of clear and consistent information about expectations associated with one's position. Through this presentation, we'll be discussing the purpose for this study, what the researchers were looking for, what they tested, as well as how they measured it, and the findings, along with the application for this research and future research to look at. The purpose of the study: it was conducted in order to examine the perception of intra-team communication along with an individual's role ambiguity in interdependent sports teams. Also to identify the acceptance communication within a sports team setting and determine the effectiveness of team support and trust amongst team members, as well as the importance of feedback. The hypothesis. The researchers identified the perception of the amount of communication exchanged between two teammates and the relation to what degree the members experience uncertainty in their role responsibilities, as well as the dimension of inter-team communication and how that would relate to the aspects of role ambiguity. So this was measured using 116 intercollegiate athletes, 66 of which were females and 50 were males. Of those 116 intercollegiate athletes that were on team sports, 59 were starters, 39 were non-starters, and the remaining 14 were practice players, which could not participate in the competition. They could practice with the other athletes. So the tests were conducted in a Likert-style questionnaire. The first one, the role ambiguity scale. It consisted of 40 items using this to assess an individual's perception of the role ambiguity in the interdependent sports team setting. The test was comprised into a multidimensional conceptualized model, which included role ambiguity in an offensive and defensive scale, which we'll be seeing in a chart later on. There were 8 dimensions overall, a couple of which were one's responsibilities, along with the behaviors needed in order to fulfill one's role responsibilities. And they were rated on a scale of 1 to 9. 1, strongly disagree, and 9, strongly agree. The higher the scores were, the greater the role clarity was, and the lower the ambiguity. The lower the scores were, however, the lower the role clarity and the greater role ambiguity that existed. The second scale was for effective communication in team sports. It was a 15-item questionnaire that looked at the individual's perception of the amount of intra-team communication within their team. This one was on a 7-point Likert scale, 1 being hardly ever, and 7 very frequently. So something that they would ask, one of the questions would be, when our team communicates, we form a huddle. And the athlete can answer, 7, we frequently do this. Overall, so the findings for this. Role clarity was higher, relatively higher on the scale of 1 to 9. And an average response to the communication, it ranged from moderate to high. And also, previous research identified the areas of role ambiguity that suggested gender, playing status, and tenure of an athlete had an influence on this role perception. So through this research, the authors found that there was no significant difference between starting status and the tenure. However, there was a significant difference between the gender, so males versus females. However, the researchers found a significant difference in males versus females. So the results showed that females were engaged in greater communication regarding acceptance communication, while males demonstrated a more negative conflict versus females, conflict communication versus females. The one significant difference that they looked at was the acceptance by teammates. In females, it was found to predict the role ambiguity dimension in evaluation for performance. The researchers looked at these different aspects on females versus males. In females, they found a significant difference in the acceptance by teammates that predicted role ambiguity in the dimension of evaluation of that role performance. While males, a greater degree of communication regarding acceptance decreased with role ambiguity. And this was in regards to the offense. These results showed that females engaged in greater communication regarding acceptance communication, while males engaged in communication that was negative conflicts more than females. Also, the females' acceptance by teammates was found to predict the role ambiguity within the dimension of evaluating the role performance on a defensive scale. This can be shown here. The O's indicated the offense, while the D's indicated the defense in respects to female versus male. On the other hand, a greater degree of communication regarding acceptance decreased with role ambiguity in males, whereas acceptance had a significant effect on the responsibilities of offense for males. So why study role ambiguity in the inter-team communication in interdependent teams? Well, role clarity for one. Teams communication can be a significant source in individuals and their perceived roles for interdependent team sports, as they can be playing more than one in the understanding of that role. Also, recognizing the varying amounts of communication between female and male athletes, since researchers suggested there was such a difference in the roles of female versus males in the interdependent sports teams. Really understanding the intra-team communication and acceptance factor, that role ambiguity was significantly relevant for males versus females, as well as the feedback importance. So practicing this with teammates. So this research was conducted early on in the season. The researchers suggested there is more to look at throughout the competitive season, that it could have a relation to communication in regards to knowing one's role and understanding that team dynamic and the aspects of where an athlete might stand. So thank you for your time. Definitely appreciate it. Hope you have a great day.